minutes. Ready? Yeah.
Call the meeting to order. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you, full house.
Is it dead?
I don't think so. I just didn't have it down. Yeah. Sorry. Good evening, if you didn't hear me. We have a full house tonight. Nice to see all these faces here. We'll move on with the agenda. Item 3, approval of minutes of meeting held on February 13th, 2023. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. We're on to persons wishing to address the school board, and we have 3 people on this non-agenda item or agenda items.
Are they both? They're both agenda.
Okay. Then we'll skip the non-agenda items and move on to item 5, persons wishing to address the school board on agenda items. And we'll start with Michelle Klimek. You have 5 minutes. You can come up to the podium. Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Michelle Klimek. I live at 4401 East Harwood Circle, Sioux Falls 57103. I've provided a handout. This is a peek into volume 1 of a 21-volume graphic novel series titled Assassination Classroom. I've spent the past few years engaged with our South Dakota legislative process. I'd like to share some top takeaways from hearings held in the education committees. This year, the senator from Watertown introduced Senate Bill 65. It would have lowered the dropout age from 18 to 16. On the Sioux Falls School District legislative status page, it's posted you are opposed to this bill, and your lobbyist did testify in opposition. I've summarized some proponent comments. Public school is where we house our juvenile criminals. A group of administrators spoke with the Watertown senator, encouraging him to bring the bill. They shared about kids being in fear in the bathrooms because they're keeping criminals in our schools. Teachers have a limited amount of energy, and because most of their energy is spent dealing with criminals, they can't teach other people's kids who aren't troublemakers. Senate Bill 129 would include school employees and certain assault provisions. The district posted a support position, and your lobbyist did testify in favor of the bill. Summarized proponent comments include, currently a student could assault a teacher and the student would be theoretically back in the classroom tomorrow. There's rampant chaos in the classroom, and there are teachers who no longer want to be teaching because of fear of assault. There's been an uptick in bomb threats and threatening of teachers and students. District 28 senator brought Senate Bill 168, which revises provisions for students with rape convictions. The district posted a to be determined position, yet your lobbyist already testified in favor of the bill. Some proponent comments. This bill was brought because students found themselves sitting in the classroom with non-consensual convicted rapists. Currently, South Dakota law doesn't allow for an alternative education for this group of students. I found this to be interesting. House Bill 1233 and 1234 would have provided alternative education paths for these convicted students, but the district's representation came out in opposition to both of those bills. Senate Bill 151 would have allowed surveys to be administered without an opt-in option because there was allegedly no identifying factors connected to the students. Survey questions can include, but not limited to, topics such as sexual behaviors, political affiliations, and family gun ownership. Many survey questions are not available for parents to review. Survey questions we are able to find include, keep in mind, these questions can be asked to elementary age students. Have you ever seriously thought about killing yourself? Have you ever made a plan to kill yourself? Have you ever tried to kill yourself? During debate, it was mentioned that the South Dakota Department of Ed supported this bill, and I understand, no data mining, no money. One senator boiled the bill down to parental rights versus grant dollars. Other comments include, do you trust your school board? School boards always vet surveys. And did you know your local school board always has the final say as to the content of these questions? This leads me to the final bill I want to touch on, and it was introduced last year. House Bill 1310, authorized parental review of instructional and curricular materials. The district's lobbyists testified in opposition. During proponent testimony, a father shared that his child, a student at LHS, was administered a survey that displayed pictures of different facial features. Then students answered questions to decide which race they thought the pictures depicted. Once students' answers were submitted, they were told if they had bias or racist tendency. The Madam Chair and another representative called this survey garbage, and teaching material like this needs to go. To close, I'd like to share a quote from a South Dakota public school teacher, which was read during the hearing for HB 1310. Teachers are running the show at schools. We are in charge. Parents do not and will not get to delegate things like what is taught and how it is taught, and if their kids get to participate or not. If parents don't like what we do as professional educators, then they need to homeschool. We do not bend over backwards for policy and parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, Amy Bruner, come up to the podium. You've got 5 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Amy Bruner and I'm at 3420 South Alpine. I'm back today to speak with you about inconsistencies and how the Sioux Falls School District is representing itself in its legislative positions. I looked up the legislative positions page on the school website. Clicking through, I was taken to a spreadsheet housed in a publicly available Google Doc. I looked up House Bill 1163 and Senate Bill 193. HB 1163 would have prohibited the dissemination of obscene materials to minors in a public school or public library. Senate Bill 193 would have established provisions related to the review and selection of instructional materials in school districts. Last time I was here, if you will remember, I provided information for you to read and links for you to look up books that are in the Sioux Falls Public Schools libraries that would be considered harmful to minors due to their inclusion of pictures, images, graphic image files, or other visual depictions and/or representations of sexual acts. Both bills would have helped prevent some of this material from being available to children in the school library. According to the school district published legislative positions statement, the Sioux Falls School District took a neutral position on both bills. However, I was in peer for both of those hearings, HB 1163 having been held on February 8th and Senate Bill 193 having been held on February 16th. In both hearings, Sam Nelson, who identified himself as the registered lobbyist for the Sioux Falls School District, spoke as an opponent to the bills. So I would ask that this board tell me what is the school district's actual position on these bills that would have helped keep sexually explicit materials out of the hands of children. Is this board actually taking a neutral position, or are you opposed to those bills? If you are actually neutral, does the school district have a rogue lobbyist who misrepresented the real school district position? Please help me understand the disconnect here and why there seems to be a misrepresentation between what the school district lists on its website and how the lobbyist testified in peer. In addition, Wade Pagoni of the Associated School Boards of South Dakota spoke. The Associated School Boards of South Dakota website says that they are, quote unquote, a private nonprofit organization representing more than 850 local school board members, the school districts they govern, and the students they serve. The Sioux Falls School District is a dues-paying member of the association. Mr. Pagoni got up in committee hearing for Senate Bill 193 and stated the following, and I quote, "We don't allow offensive materials in our school. The only thing offensive about this debate is the fact that public schools, are being discussed as being and rampant pornography. Are you kidding me? This is offensive." Well, no one except Mr. Pagoni said that the school boards are allowing quote unquote rampant porn, but there are actually dozens of books available in the Sioux Falls Public Schools that are not age appropriate to the children they are being made available to. And Mr. Pagoni said that this issue falls to the local school board. He felt clearly offended by what we were saying, but as a parent in the school district, let me say this. This isn't about anyone feeling offended. This is about the practical, real-world consequences of a book such as the one in Lincoln High School Library called This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson. It's available to children, and this book is gay, instructs readers on the use of lube for bumming, and gives tips on arranging sex hookups on the Grindr app. I'd like to ask you to correct the record on your legislative positions to accurately depict the Sioux Falls School District position from neutral to opposed on House Bill 1163 and Senate Bill 193, as the school district lobbyist testified in hearings on both bills. Thank you.
All right, and last up, Stephanie Johnson. Come up and state your name and give us your address, please.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Johnson, and my address is 4600 West Kathleen Street. I'm part of the moms in the group that we were voting for the boundary change. So just wanted to say thank you, that we appreciate you listening to our small group. We really appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
can I have just a point of privilege?
Yes.
And we can address this when we get to the legislative section, but I think it's very clear that lobbyists often speak in hearings and provide information at the time, and things can change even right during the course of a hearing. I have all the confidence in the world in Sam Nelson, and the primary position on that was neutral, because we don't need a policy because one already exists. So I want to make that very clear.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. And on to the good news report.
Well, I'm going to take the good news report tonight because unfortunately Deanne Conrad is not able to be with us, but we have something exciting coming up that begins in March, and we thought it would be a great way to kick this off. And so tonight I am here to welcome all of our school librarians. Wave your hands, librarians, and their principals. Principals, wave your hand, or assistant principals. Welcome. Let's give them a hand for being here. I have to say, I am finding personal satisfaction making all of our principals come to the board meeting tonight, because they are often not present, but we appreciate all of you coming tonight. And so with that, we want to give an overview of a citywide event starting in March. It was kind of a dream come true for me last year. I said I would love for this to happen, and this is going to be the second annual year for our Everybody Reads initiative. And of course, like every good initiative citywide, there's a great theme, and we have a lot of people involved and some new people involved this year. So with that, I would like to introduce and call forward Ann Smith. Ann oversees our library media programs, and she is going to tell us about some of the wonderful things happening this month.
So the theme that we've selected for Everybody Reads this year is Reach for the Stars. Reading unlocks the potential for us to achieve our loftiest dreams, and our goal is to help visualize just how much we, all of us, read throughout this 3-week period between March 13th and March 31st. Our school librarians will tabulate how many books are read at school, and our colleagues at the Siouxland Public Libraries will tabulate how many books are read by our community members, as well as on the website, anyone can go in and record as they're reading. I do want to give a shout out to Charlene Lean, who's here tonight representing the public library. We're grateful for their partnership in this.
Would you stand, please, so that we see you back there?
So this is the second year for Everybody Reads, and a new element is our partnership with Reach Literacy. And again, Paige Sarda is here.
Give her a hand, too.
When we reach the benchmark of 100,000 books read, we will donate $400 to Reach. At 200,000, we will donate an additional $500, and at 300,000, an additional $600, for a total of $1,500. We set those amounts because we know that last year we read over 350,000 books. So we had 4 weeks last year, only 3 weeks this year, but we're hopeful with a little bit more push, should not be a problem to achieve those numbers. We are especially grateful to our sponsors, Mackin Books, Bound to Stay Bound, and Sora, for funding the donations to REACH. At this time, I'd like to recognize Abby Johnson, who designed our t-shirts. Abby, would you stand up? Somewhere.
There is Abby. There's Abby.
Abby is the library assistant at Laura Wilder Elementary. She worked with Laura Wilder's librarian, and her mentor and co-worker was Jenny Westra, who was a leader in planning Everybody Reads last year and this year as long as she was able. Unfortunately, Jenny passed away February 16th, but she continues to be our guiding star. We'll think of Jenny as each star appears in our growing galaxy of reading, because as people read, they'll be posting stars. As numbers are recorded on the website, the background will grow more stars and planets, and the galaxy will grow to infinity and beyond. We're delightful for the support of the Sioux Falls School District to ensure that our libraries can fulfill their potential to promote each of the district's priority areas: academic success, well-being, community engagement, staff excellence, and effective use of resources. The district has hired certified librarians for all of our schools, and this is not necessarily the norm across our state. So everyone waved, but if I could just have all the librarians and their admins stand up one more time so we could recognize them and say thank you. I would like to recognize 10 of our schools who have earned the South Dakota State Library's distinction of 21st Century School Library. That includes our 4 high schools: Jefferson High School, Lincoln High School, Roosevelt High School, and Washington High School, 2 of our middle schools, George McGovern Middle School and Patrick Henry Middle School, and 4 of our elementary schools, John Harris, Lowell, Robert Frost, and Sonia Sotomayor. Earning this distinction requires the librarian to put together some pretty extensive self-reflection. It's a 3-year recognition, and then at the end of 3 years, you have to turn around and make sure that you're still meeting the criteria. So we're proud of our 21st Century School libraries.
Thank you, Ann.
Anne, thank you. And team, thank you. We're very excited about the Reach for the Stars and seeing that website develop in the collaboration with the city and with Reach. It's just a great community effort. And with that, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the role of the librarian is to help students select, find, analyze, and evaluate, create, and communicate thoughts and ideas. And with their specialized expertise in children's literacy and print, in both print and electronic formats, your school librarian supports and guides all students to find just the right book and guiding students to engage materials. And with that, we have a highlight of the school libraries.
I love this place. I tell people all the time, I have the best job in the school district, like hands down. I get to come to Ben Rifle, I get to be with kids, I just get to learn about their lives and then help connect them with books that they love. It's pretty awesome.
I really try to make it a place where all students feel safe and welcome, and that they can find themselves reflected in the books here in our library, and they find stories that excite them and interest them.
I hated reading, despised it, and always have had a good librarian to help me kind of figure out what type of books I would be interested in, or just something I would like to read.
We have 18,000 books in our library. Last year, I know I read 125 books. This year, my goal is 150 books for 2023.
I read a lot, maybe over 200 books last year. So knowing the books, right, is the first step.
Mrs. Smith makes it really easy to find books you like. If you just say like one word or genre that you're looking for, she like automatically can point you to where you need to go. You know, if you don't really even know what you're looking for, she can kind of like show you things that are popular, and it's just really easy to find something you like.
Even if I don't know what I want to read, she'll just pull up with a bunch of books and be like, you could read this, and usually you end up finding something.
It's like every time we come into the library, she does a book talk. One day she read a chapter from a book that was about World War I, and then I loved that series and I read the whole series.
I want to open up doors and windows for them. Like, I want to expose them to stories, right? Every story matters, and so introducing them to characters, introducing them to series, and maybe that will be the thing that sparks their interest and love for reading. We also get to do STEM things in the library, so we get to really tap into that engineering, teamwork, math end of things. So adding that piece in just adds a whole nother creativity and gets to work with different intelligences that kids have.
Sometimes she has like maker spaces with like all sorts of little toys and stuff, and sometimes she has activities and challenges for us to do. I think I've just had always a natural like knack for reading. It's like putting your mind in a different world, basically.
Books you can have like forever with, but like TikTok, like it's short content, so like you can't really get a full story out of it.
When you're reading, you activate your mind more than playing video games or watching even educational movies, because you have to intelligize it instead of just looking at it.
Books are everywhere, so there's going to be something that you enjoy.
There's not anyone who doesn't like to read, they just haven't found the right book yet.
I tell our kids there's no excuse not to read anymore, because you can have an audiobook, you can read a manga book. It doesn't have to be just a traditional chapter book that they're reading.
We really appreciate like the diverse collection and the diverse options, and we just think that's really important, especially at our school, to be representing like all of those voices.
I feel like so thankful that, again, I just have the best job. It's amazing. I get to work with teachers, but still get to be with kids every day. It's just the best.
So Sioux Falls is home to 35 of the state's 395 school libraries. According to the state data collection, each student checks out on an average of 28 items in a school year. If that number is applied to the 25,000 students in Sioux Falls School District, 700,000 books are checked out each year. And so we're very thankful for the work that is done in our schools and by our librarians to support the literacy in Sioux Falls in our schools, but also across the community. And we have an important partner with us here tonight. Steve Hildebrands is here to speak about the partnership with Promising Futures. Steve, come on up.
Thank you, Dr. Boyson. I don't know how important I am, but I'm glad to be here. Members of the school board, Dr. Stavum, thank you for the invitation to be here. I never get the opportunity to be here when these great employees of the school district are here. You know, we're the Promising Futures Fund. We support about 19 schools in the Sioux Falls School District. Most of the schools have very high rates of poverty. And I will tell you that to a T, I couldn't be more proud to have a partnership with these principals, with these assistant principals, with these librarians, and your teachers, all of the staff in the school district. They have tough jobs, oftentimes thankless jobs. This time of year, the attacks coming out of Pier are rampant and unfair, and it's good to be here. I am so proud of the work that all of you do, all of the folks here do, and across the district. We are thrilled to be partnering once again with your Everybody Reads initiative. You know, when I first started 3 years ago with Promising Futures, we learned about the very, very high rates of poverty, and we learned from principals and teachers that a lot of these kids coming to kindergarten and first grade are starting their schooling having never picked up a book before, having never been read to as a child. And the lack of vocabulary, I can't even say it, the lack of vocabulary that happens when you're not read to, when you're not getting a chance to do some reading yourself, when you're not learning the alphabet, when you're not being exposed to opportunities to hear people read and verbalize, you're starting way behind. And how sad is that? That's not fair to that kid. And so I've learned so much from all of you about the importance of getting books in kids' hands. We are so proud of all that we do. We do a book a month club where 244 different classrooms across the school district get, every single kid in that classroom gets a book every month for 9 months. It's about 56,000 books. Those kids get to pick them out, and they own those books to build their own library at home, share with their siblings if they have them, share with their friends, trade off. In the summertime, right before school ends, for about 3,000 kids, first, second, and third graders, we give 5 books. We gave 6 books last year. I think we're going to give 5 books this summer, where they get to own them. They'll take them home with your encouragement to read throughout the summer and help reduce some of that summer slide that you've taught me about. I'm not an educator and I'm not a parent, but I've learned so much from the people in this room and from all of you as well. With Everybody Reads, about 3,000 school kids also will get a hardcover book, a special hardcover book for them to own and to take home. 2 years ago, this is one of my favorites, How Full Is Your Bucket? It's a book about hope. You all know it much better than I do. I learned it from you. That was a great book for some of our grades. And then this is one of the books we did last year. It's called Say Something. It's a book that I never needed to read. I was always very vocal, still am, to say the least. You're laughing, it's true. I'm proud of the voice that I have, and I like to use it, and I want kids to stand up and fight for what they believe is right in our community and our state and our world. So we're excited to be here. We'll be delivering books to the schools here shortly and get more books in the hands of kids and grow those stars on the website. So thank you.
Thank you.
With all that great information, it's an invitation for the community to join us March 13th through the 31st for Everybody Reads. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Go out and intelligize that. That's what I just learned.
Intelligize that. Right. New word today.
Yes.
Learned a new word. I want to thank everybody here, obviously our librarians. You do play such an important role in our kids' lives every single day. And I really appreciate the partnerships that we have in our community, not just Promising Futures, but Siouxland Libraries, Reach Literacy. There's so many organizations in Sioux Falls that are out there trying to help our kids gain literacy and just expose themselves to experiences via books. So thank you.
I would just add, if you think about, when I was in elementary school a few years ago, we had a computer lab and we had a lot of books, but there was no other, I know the Dewey Decimal System and the card catalog and all of that stuff. And so you think about how much the library itself has changed and how much all of you guys have changed and grown with that. It's amazing. It's a hard job to engage kids in something that's not digital and electronic. And so kudos to all of you for listening to the students on here talk about how excited they were about reading and how helpful all of you are at helping them to identify what it is that they love. Parents have a hard time doing that, so we rely on you folks to have that expertise and to really get that spark in our students. So thank you all for changing with the times and continuing to help our kids be engaged and learning and growing as you go as well. So appreciate all of that.
When I was in school, I felt they didn't want me in the library, probably for a good reason. But I can remember, don't mix up the books and you can't talk. That didn't work. But I would say this. The one thing I appreciate is how welcoming the librarians and the teachers and the way they communicate with their curriculum and they get kids in there and they want kids in there. It's just super. Mm-hmm. I appreciate it.
Well, they are doing something right. When my daughter had an opportunity for her time out or her reflection time, she chose to spend it with the librarian at John Harris. She wanted to put books away, just like the librarian does. So that was so appreciated. And then I'm also looking forward to going into several classrooms across the district to read to the kids. So if anybody's here and needs some other people to go in and read to the kids, I'm sure my colleagues would like to as well. But what a great opportunity.
This district, when I came 3 years ago and went through buildings, our library spaces are enviable, and they are beautiful, and they are even more beautiful because of what you do in those spaces and how welcoming they are. But I want everybody to understand the value of libraries in school. When I was teaching, one of the things that district did was they did away with librarians, and they put an adult in there, but they were not a trained librarian. Instead, we had area librarians that were over 8 or 10 schools. And we felt the effects immediately. I felt it as a teacher. You could see it in the rate of reading our students. And so literacy is to be valued, but this school district values our libraries and our librarians, and we appreciate everything that you do. Thank you for coming tonight. And I'm sure you're going to want to stick around for the duration of the meeting, but should you have other events, do feel free to make your way out after the good news report is finished. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That means now.
You do not have to stay. We'll move on to item 8.
Give them just a minute. But do it quickly.
Good. Get through the whole meeting right now.
I will.
I haven't felt that good for a while. Let's go, Mark.
Let's hurry up and pass a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Quiet in the library.
I know. They're not quiet places anymore.
Could file out quietly. That would be helpful.
All right.
Gary is just wonderful at the library.
We will move on to item 8. We didn't have any other conflicts of interest. So moving on to item 9, approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. On to item 10, supplemental consent agenda. We have items A, claims to Sanford. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes with one abstention from board member Ryder. And then item 10B, claims to Avera. Can I get a motion and a second to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion passes from one abstention by myself. And on to the reports of the superintendent.
Yep, and I'm going to briefly remind the board and the community that this is kind of part 2 now from the initial boundary report that we had a few weeks ago. And so Dr. Nold, oh, sorry, you're making your approach again. So Dr. Nold is going to give us the rest of the story, and tonight the board will be asked to make a motion on these changes. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
I thought it was a different topic. My apologies.
Thought maybe you just wanted the grand entrance for your report.
No, that was not it. I lost that when everybody left. Good evening. And tonight I bring back to you the proposed boundary changes for the 23-24 school year. And the purpose of this report is to obviously bring back those to the school board that we had provided at the work session, and to go through, and it will be 2 of the 4, and I'll explain a little bit more why on just 2 of the 4 instead of all 4 of which for the boundary changes for your review and approval. And it hits in 4 different priority areas: academic success, well-being, community engagement, and effective use of our resources. The explanation of this information was provided to the board February 1st at that work session on 4 proposed areas of school boundary change. This was precipitated by that significant growth and movement into the 2 areas, Rosa Parks being 1 and Renberg Elementary being the 2nd. One piece of background information to this we have, and it'll be part of the process that we utilize. There's been significant population growth anywhere along that east and west side, but specifically in the Rosa Parks area and the Renberg area, that just did not any longer have the ability to absorb that growth. A lot of that we saw in 2021 was a significant growth of apartments, the multifamily housing. And that was a record number for the city of Sioux Falls. In 2022, that was surpassed, almost doubled during that time. And then that looks to continue to be on somewhat of that same pace this current year. Growth on the east and west sides of the city have impacted the Sioux Falls School District. So while we see that also to the south, it does not necessarily impact the Sioux Falls School District in the same manner. Steps that we had completed along the way in this process. The first thing was we garnered that information from the city of Sioux Falls. So we worked with the city of Sioux Falls and we had it plotted out, and you saw some of that in that report at the work session in the city of Sioux Falls, where those areas of growth are, whether that be individual housing, duplexes, or multifamily housing. And so we did get that information from the city. The second step that we took was we looked at and analyzed the numbers at those schools, which would be Renberg Elementary and Rosa Parks. It would be impacted because that significant growth, especially of the multifamily housing, was in those two areas, attendance areas. And we realized that that would again continue to exceed the capacity of those buildings. The administration then in the third step created a proposal that would be for the board's consideration. The administrators were in the fourth step then notified because we wanted to make sure that they knew what was going to impact potentially their building. The next step in that process was to then inform the teaching staff so that they were aware of potential changes and moves that could occur. A lot of that had to do with some programming, and the rest of it would have to do with some of the boundary changes. The next step in that was the February work session, which the board was then given and provided that information, that supporting information to show why we were proposing the changes in the boundaries. And then the seventh step in that is where we began the parent communication. Through the parent communication part, we did provide information to the parents and then receive feedback from the parents. That went out in email messaging that next day after we had provided that report to the board. There was also informational letters that were sent, phone calls in certain situations, especially with some of the families that we wanted to make sure that they received that full information, that there could have been some type of a barrier. Parent information meetings were also held. And so we had completed at that time the Renberg information meeting for the parents, and then also the one that would impact the Annie Sullivan students that would be moved, that would also impact those students moving from Ben Rifle to Whittier. Due to the weather, which has been an issue for all of us, we were not able to hold two of those parent meetings. Those would be the ones with the Harvey Dunn area movement and Susan B. Anthony. So that's why we postponed bringing that forward to the board, and we'll wait till the next board meeting so that we can have those informational sessions with the parents and receive that feedback. We also had our EL liaisons meet with families, and especially our EL families, and go out and talk with them. We had public input at the board meetings, at the last board meeting that we had, media reporting. And then our social workers have also gone out and continue to go out to talk to some of the families to make sure that they understand what their options are. And then the Let's Talk correspondence is that final piece of communication, and there's been multiple forms of communication coming in that way, along with the emails, and that information has been provided to you, the board, through that Google Doc. The information gained from this was used to make informed decisions, and the school board meeting to consider the proposed boundary changes is the meeting that we have here tonight. So there's two proposals that'll come forward to you this evening, the first of which is that area of Rosa Parks to Annie Sullivan Elementary and Ben Rifle to Whittier. So it's that same area, and it does impact the elementary and the middle school change. The current students in the Rosa Parks Elementary and Ben Rifle Middle School attendance area north of Arrowhead Parkway, east of Sycamore Avenue, and south of 6th Street are relocated through a proposed boundary change to the Annie Sullivan Elementary and Whittier Middle School attendance areas starting in the 23-24 school year. The areas impacted are highlighted on the map that I will show you. And so that would be all three of those areas on there. It's the one in the upper top area of that Rosa Parks boundary. And so that area there that was listed by the streets would be going to Annie Sullivan for the elementary and would be going to Whittier Middle School. The busing will be provided to Whittier Middle School. So that's the first area of proposed change. We did also, through the process there, utilize some additional agreements to be able to help and ease some of that burden for the families. And we did allow the current 4th grade students and siblings, they can continue to attend at Rosa Parks through the open enrollment process or grandfathering process if requested by February 28th. We've sent out a minimum of at least 3 communications on that to those families, but we will have continuing informational sessions for those that have not been had those yet. So with this group here, they've had that information. It was sent out again Friday to make sure that they had contacted us by that date if they had an intention of staying. We also had current 6th and 7th grade students that are attending at Ben Rifle Middle School, and those who would potentially be going there as the incoming 6th graders next year, the current 5th graders. We are allowing them to utilize the open enrollment and be grandfathered in, and we again have encouraged them to contact us by February 28th. And then we'll provide the busing beginning next school year that would go from that area to Whittier Middle School. The second area of which would be the Renberg to Hawthorne Elementary School. And again, this part of it, the current Renberg Elementary students that live in the attendance area designated on the north by Tickman Street, on the south by Madison Avenue, the east by I-29, and on the west by the natural waterway that goes there, will be relocated through the proposed boundary change to the Hawthorne Elementary School attendance area beginning in 23-24. And you can see here on the map where that area is that's identified. And in the selection of that area, we truly tried to select an area that would not remain, even with the new elementary opening, would not remain in the Renberg area potentially. And so that was the area that was selected, and also to include enough students and potential growth, because many of those new apartment complexes and multi and single family housing are in that area, that would be moved to that Hawthorne area. We did also, with that, talk to many of those families that had made that request and that had applied as of February 22nd. For open enrollment back to Renberg based on the guidelines of open enrollment, and we'll be approving those pending board approval of the boundary changes. Any additional requests will continue to follow the policy that governs open enrollment for the Sioux Falls School District. And we feel very comfortable in that, especially due to the fact that we included in that change area the largest amount of the new growth and the potential of the new apartments that are being built, especially right specifically in that corner area. And so we do feel comfortable that we'll be able to accommodate in that way. So in summary, due to the significant increased enrollment of students at Rosa Parks and Renberg Elementary, the district is proposing changes in boundaries to move students to schools in the district that have the capacity to accommodate that growth. The two are the schools that are identified in this case. Annie Sullivan and Hawthorne do have capacity to be able to incur that growth. The administrative recommendation approved the recommended boundary changes with the agreed upon processes for the specific groups of students that have the option of maintaining their current enrollment. And I would stand by for any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Knoll?
I don't have any questions, but I just would say that I appreciated the families that came and talked to us. They were very respectful. They had good ideas, and we appreciate feedback that we get from people because we don't always all have the same ideas. And so when people have questions or concerns, bring those to us, and we can do our best to look at the big picture and how we might be able to make that work. So I'm glad that we have some people that are very happy with the changes that were included into this new proposal.
Some great ideas that came forward. Some of those, it just made the most sense to go through that group, and it was a smaller number. We always want to anticipate what that's going to be instead of some of the other options to ensure that, probably more so with the open enrollment process.
Just appreciate the process, the open dialogue, and all the work that went into just figuring out some good solutions. So thank you. All right, with that, can I get a motion and a second to approve the recommended boundary changes?
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. On to legislative update.
Getting closer to the end of the session. And one of the things that Mr. Veek, I'm sure will also mention, but we want to mention for the community, is that we continue to advocate for funding for school districts across the state, and appropriations right now is getting started on kind of making those final figures a reality. And so we hope that the messaging that we provided for the need, particularly in the area of teacher compensation and where our state of South Dakota ranks nationally, which I believe is still dead last, is something that we need to address, especially with workforce issues and just knowing the importance of good teachers in our classrooms. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Veek.
Thank you. So I'm going to go through our document. I'm going to talk about bills where we have a position on other than neutral. and bills that were still alive as of the last time you met. So if we had a position on them, but they died, and we talked about it last time, I'm not going to talk about them again tonight. So stop me if you have any questions or issues. So start with House Bill 1014. It updates SLP licensure provisions and makes them more flexible. We support that bill, and that has since been signed by the governor. So that has passed all the way through. House Bill 1055 increases the amount of dollars for opportunity scholarships. We support that bill. It's in Senate Ed tomorrow. So it's out of every bill right now that is still alive is at least passed one house because they had to get out last week. House Bill 1060 increases the dollars for minimum, the minimum amount for a bid requirement. That has passed. We supported that bill, and that has passed and has been signed by the governor. 1123 is a key bill, our one left that is still alive. We support that bill. It allows school boards to switch to 4-year board terms so they can match up with, in the even numbered years with, they'd have even numbered year elections so they can match up with, in our case, it would be the city, every election. Saves money and increases voter turnout. That bill is in Senate Ed tomorrow. 1199, we opposed it, required post-election audits. That was, that died in House State Affairs. House Bill 1234, we opposed. It phases in private school vouchers. That bill also died, but that was in House Ed, so it didn't make it out of the House. So over to the Senate bills. Senate bills 3 through 6, we supported. Those were supported the Juvenile Justice Summer Study. Senate Bill 3 was Hog House, has nothing to do with that anymore. The other bills, 4, 5, and 6, all passed House Ed. Just I think it was very recently, so they will go to the House floor. Senate Bill 24, we supported, still support. That was the governor's 5% state aid bill. There's talk about 6, 7, or 8%, 5, 6, 7, or 8%. So obviously we would support any amendment of that bill or a different hog house bill that would go a little bit higher than that 5%, as inflation ran 8% last year. Senate bill, and that's in joint appropriations, so that'll be decided in the last couple of days. Senate Bill 59 funds CTE infrastructure. That has actually got out of past joint appropriations, and we support that bill. Senate Bill 65, we oppose. It reduces the required age of attendance from 18 to 16. That died in Senate Ed. Senate Bill 76 allows the Secretary of Ed, the part that we care about anyway, flexibility for provisional licenses. It should ease up on the hiring of staff who are hard to attain right now. That has passed both houses and is going to the governor, so that's good news. Senate Bill 118 we support. It reduces tuition and adds EC teachers, early childhood Head Start teachers, to that group. That has passed the Senate and is waiting to come up in the House committee, House Ed committee. Senate Bill 120 we oppose. It's a tax exemption. It's increasing the tax exemption for industrial development corporations, property taxes from 500,000. It was originally to 10 million. It's been amended down to 5 million. And that has passed the House Commerce Committee, so it will be on the floor tomorrow. So it was 10 million, it's been cut in half. At least that's better. There was another slight provision in the bill where it said they could lease to any nonprofit. Now it says they can lease to anybody nonprofit who doesn't have to pay property taxes. So that was a good too. So we got a couple of concessions on that. So the bill's better, but we do still have that as an oppose. Senate Bill 129 increases assault penalties on school staff. That got out of the Senate, of course, and it passed House Ed 12-3. the other day. And Senate Bill 168, that bill was neutral for us. It was TBD. It hasn't been updated on our public site yet. We've got it on here tonight. The new position would be to amend, because the bill permits schools to provide remote learning to students registered as sex offenders. You know, that was just a bill. That was a placeholder. When last time we met, it didn't have there was no bones to it. There was, I mean, it maybe had a bones, but no muscle, no nothing else. So now we've seen the bill. We have it as amend because, among other things, it conflicts with IDEA, and maybe Mr. Arms would like to chime in on this, but you can't pass a state law that is in violation of the IDEA, and it also has schools making some decisions based on things they might not know about that the court would, but the school wouldn't. I don't know, Brett, is there anything you want to add for that? So we have it as amend to fix those two parts of it, and then it is a bill that allows schools, doesn't require, but it'd be nice if those two things would be addressed. Those are the items I was going to talk about. Those are the bills we have positions on. If there's no amendments to these positions, I would ask you to just approve the report and the positions. Thanks.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Todd? Well, I think we're probably good. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the amended legislative update?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. On to our last item tonight, assignment of school board members to the Board of the Equalization. Is there anything I have to read, Todd, or just that we've appointed ourselves?
Yeah, you have that in your materials, so you don't have to read that. That is just appointing it as presented, which you have in the materials there.
All right. Well, I'll just ask for a motion and a second to declare, I guess, the assignment of school board members to the Board of Equalization.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. And I'm just we've got Teacher of the Year this evening, starting at 7 o'clock. For those not attending, it will be live streamed on our YouTube channel, which I think people can also access via our website. So if you want to go home and be with your families, you can watch it online. Anything else? Yes, we need to get out there. If everyone's wondering why we're moving so quickly through the agenda, it's because we want to get out it's at Ben Rifle for those of you that might want to attend in person. So, all right. Any other items for good of the order? All right. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn, please?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right. So